Good evening. This is the April 28th, 2020 meeting of the East Long Meadow Town Council by remote webinar. I will open the meeting now with a moment of silence, and we ask that you keep all of our first responders, as well as our servicemen and women, and most especially all of our residents and those who are struggling with loved ones who may have contracted the COVID virus. Thank you. In accordance with Mass General Law, this meeting is being audio taped and videotaped. If there are any guests in our remote audience who are doing the same, would you kindly identify yourselves? And our host will acknowledge that. Mr. Quimby, I don't see any.
Nope, you're clear.
Good. Okay. Number 3 on our agenda this evening is public comments, and I'm told by our clerk that we have no one requesting comments this evening. So number 4, council comments. Any councilors wish to make any statements this evening? Hearing none, I'll move quickly then to our town manager's report. Mary, good evening.
Oh, good evening to you. Thank you, everybody. Good to see your smiling faces. Tonight's report is not a great deal different from the report I filed with you 2 weeks ago, in as much as we just continue to struggle, frankly, keeping the town's business operational in light of the fact that we have to work remotely for the most part. However, I think the staff is sort of getting used to our new routine. We're now into week 7 of this social distancing, and adjustments have been made and continue to be made. And I continue to thank the department heads and all our employees for the efforts they're making to have an efficient operation of business. We did put the new ambulance in service that you voted to accept the donation from Palmer Ambulance Service at your last meeting. And it has already been a terrific asset to the emergency medical staff. The COVID-19 caseload continues to grow throughout the Commonwealth in Hamden County and in East Long Meadow. And the paramedics working out of our fire department are really doing a terrific job managing some of the calls, particularly from the elder housing units in town and the nursing homes that East Long Meadow is home to. So there continue to be a number of daily and weekly conference calls that we all participate in. The department head calls have gone down to, the Emergency Operations Center calls have gone down to 3 times a week. This past week, we had a department head's phone call as well, and I continue to participate in the statewide CEO conference call that's every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And I have some notes to share with you on today's news, although I suspect you're all aware that the governor has extended the stay-at-home advisory now through May 18th. Today at 2 o'clock, the first meeting of the Governor's Advisory Commission or Advisory Board was convening. That board is tasked with coming up with a phased-in transition plan by May 18th. And it's composed of 17 members, 11 from private industry, 3 municipal entities, the mayors of Lawrence, East Hampton, and Boston, and 3 public health officials. And they are going to have a deliverable by May 18th of a plan for that phased-in reopening. And the lieutenant governor indicated that that may well be a regional approach based on the reports of this committee, which will include essentially safety issues, safety plans that the CEOs who are members of the committee will come up with, and a review of safe workplace issues, for customers as well as employees. And so that's a work in progress, but they're hopeful that that report 3 weeks from now will assist the Commonwealth in making its further recommendations about quote unquote reopening for business. We were also told that 56% of the deaths statewide have occurred in nursing facilities and cluster housing for the elderly. So that continues to be a focus of the administration. And there's an additional $130 million that was distributed to the Commonwealth from the federal government, which will be used for nursing home care, for infection control, for PPE, for testing, for National Guard services, et cetera. So there's a very comprehensive plan in place at the statewide level, and we're kept advised of those advisories on a weekly basis. That was it essentially for the Lieutenant Governor's administrative report. Then they shifted over to the finance aspect of things, which of course we're all interested in. And unfortunately, there was really no guidance offered today. There's still no state budget. There's no House budget. There wasn't even an opinion offered really as to when that might occur. So all the CEOs and town managers and mayors and so forth that participate in this have an opportunity to ask questions, but the answers unfortunately continue to be, I won't say they're not helpful, because it's nice to know that everybody is struggling the same as we are, but they're not concrete yet in the terms of providing us with any real guidance about revenue streams or what we can anticipate. So that was essentially that call today. For your benefit, you probably know this too, the Financial Oversight Committee has begun its meetings, and tomorrow I think will be the 4th meeting. In that respect, we have accepted the resignation of our finance director as of yesterday. So that puts a little bit of an impingement on our preparation, our budget preparations. And so I'm going to ask your board, your council, to be patient. I have appointed Olga Bonus as the interim town accountant, and I will be meeting with her daily to become apprised of projects that they're working on and what progress we can expect to make with some budget revisions. And that's really all I have to tell you. We're plodding along. We're doing the best we can. Business is being accomplished, and I look forward to the time when that May 18th report comes out to see if there's a possibility that we can return to some sense of normalcy as the stress continues to grow, as much as we try to combat it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions from the council? Okay, moving on to approval of minutes. Item 6A, approval of the March 24th, 2020 open session minutes. I will entertain a motion for that.
So I'll make a motion to approve the town council meeting conducted on March 24th, 2020 pertaining to paragraph 6A with the consent of the entire council.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. A reminder to the council as well as our listening or viewing audience that whenever our meetings are held remotely, all votes will be by roll call. Ms. Richards?
Yes.
Mr. Page?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr. Payne?
Yes.
And Mr. Henry?
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously. Second on our list of minutes is the April 14, 2020 open session minutes. You have those in your packets as well. And if there are No additions or corrections. I will entertain a motion for approval. Ms. Richards?
Thank you, Kathy. I have some corrections, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
great. I'm looking at page 7. And it's at the bottom of the page under new business. And actually, there are 2 motions by roll call vote in this section. And it identifies that Counselor Kane and Counselor Richards recused themselves. And we did not, at least I did not, and I don't believe Michael did either, for that particular vote to go into executive session. And then there was another one to return to open session. And it says that Counselor Kane and Counselor Richards recused ourselves again. So that just has to be corrected.
Okay, Jackie, you have those notes? Okay. Any other additions or corrections? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for the approval of those minutes with the noted corrections.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded for approving the April 14, 2020 open session minutes with corrections. Ms. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Page,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr. Kane
Yes.
and Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Thank you. And now we can move to the April 14, 2020 executive session minutes. Those as well are in your packet. Any changes, corrections, comments? Hearing none. By roll call, approval of the April 14 executive session minutes. Ms. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Page,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr. Kane
Yes.
and Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Okay, those are approved. Number 7, communications, correspondence, and announcements. I would like to add something here. Back in March, at our March 10th meeting, the council voted to instruct the DPW superintendent to have Jersey barriers installed at the end of Rural Lane where it meets Pilgrim Road for a period of not to exceed 120 days as a temporary opportunity for the council as well as police and other and DPW to gather data on whether or not those actions would deter from the cut-through traffic from Rural Lane out Pilgrim and onto Parker. That action was taken on Monday. The barriers were installed, and for the record, many of us have received innumerable emails or contact by phone. I'm told by our assistant to the clerk that there have been innumerable phone calls to Town Hall. What I would like to say is clearly we're still in that temporary phase where it's important for us to gather data on whether installing the barriers ought to be considered for on a more permanent basis. We're only 2 days into that action. However, I would note for the public that the council takes all of this input from our residents on both sides of the matter right now, for the barriers, against the barriers. And I want to assure you that we will be taking this matter up sooner than later, as soon as we have some additional data. And if you've reached out to me, my policy is to return an email to you as quickly as I can. So that being said, you'll get those emails within the next 24 hours And again, please know that the council will take this under review prior to the expiration of the 120 days for the benefit of all. Anything else under communication, correspondence, and announcements? Okay, then we can move to public hearings. We have none scheduled for this evening. Orders of the day, licensing matters. There are no licensing matters before us this evening. And we are now to 9B1. And this is happy news. Through the gracious donation of our, I believe it's the Rotary Club,
Yes.
the recipients of a Victory, this is a mouthful of words, Victory Innovation MG200 Ultra Sprayer, valued at approximately $867 for use by our police and fire departments. And we will be in receipt of this gift as it pertains to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53.5. And I'm looking to see if one of our chiefs is in attendance this evening who can speak to that if he wishes.
Jeff is connected via phone. Would you like me to?
Yes, would you please? Thank you, Brian.
You got it. All right, Jeff, you should be good to talk.
Good evening, Chief DeLassio. Thanks for joining us. Or
Can
not.
you hear me?
Yes, we can,
you
Chief.
hear me?
Thanks for calling in. We were at that point in the agenda where we're talking about the generosity of our Rotary Club in gifting the Victory Innovative Sprayer to the police and fire departments. Did you want to
Yes.
speak a little bit about
Yep.
that?
Sure. Yeah, so the Rotary Club reached out to us, being Chief Morissette, regarding what they could possibly do. We put our heads together. We thought that would be the best use for money moving forward. It would have a long-term, after this COVID-19 issue runs its course, we could still have a product that we could utilize moving forward down the road for years and years to come. So we threw it back at them, and they graciously accepted what we had to consider for a possible gift, and they came through and donated the money to make it happen. So we are really, really appreciative.
Well, again, we're indebted to our service clubs in town. They always step up when asked and even when not asked. And so again, continued gratitude to our Rotary Club this evening. That said, I will entertain a motion to accept this generous gift.
I move that the town accept Victory Innovations MG200 static sprayer from the East Long Meadow Rotary Club, valued at $867.02 for use by the police and fire departments per Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53.5.
Second,
The motion's been made and seconded. And so again, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Richards,
yes.
Mr. Page,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mr. Kane,
Yes.
and Mr. Henry.
Yes.
That is unanimous, and at the risk of being redundant, thank you again to our Rotarians for such a generous gift.
And, Chief Morissette did just join. I'm not sure if you wanted to hear from him as well.
Of course. Chief, are you, Morissette, are you with us?
He's sliding over.
Am I here?
You are.
It's too late.
The camera's on. I have my glasses on.
Chief,
Thanks. The Rotary Club, I don't know if Jeff had a chance to say it. I missed the whole thing. The Rotary Club reached out to us and wanted to donate something. They were looking to help out during this time. So this is what Jeff and I talked about. We've been actually working on one of these for a while. So it was great that they stepped up and were able to help us.
Yes, Chief DeLassio did mention that, and clearly, thank you for your brainstorming there and selecting something that is appropriate, especially in given the current situation. The council just voted unanimously to accept the gift per the Mass General Law requirements. So we're
Excellent. Thank you.
happy for both departments.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining the meeting. Also under financial matters this evening is the FY 23rd quarter budget and capital updates. Mary, go ahead. You look like you're leaning in to talk. So I'll lean out, you lean in.
Yes, well, you know, obviously it was scheduled for the meeting of the 14th of April to have this report, and it wasn't quite ready for presentation that night. So we agreed to defer it to tonight's meeting, and as I referenced a couple of minutes ago, unfortunately, the finance director has tendered her resignation, and the assistant accountant hasn't had an opportunity, in fairness, to gather the information from where it's stored, and she had to get certain permissions that the IT department obviously cooperated with. But in any case, long story short is those reports are not ready for you tonight. So I would ask your indulgence. I intend to sit with Olga over the next few days regularly, and hopefully we'll have that ready. Perhaps I can disseminate it to you if it's ready before your next meeting, but certainly we can present it at the next meeting. There's going to be a lot of fits and starts and hiccups, to use the vernacular, in our budget process because of this unanticipated event, but I assure you that we have good, competent staff ready and willing to perform the tasks that need to be done. So we'll get on it.
Thank you.
Just not tonight.
Kathy,
Understood. Mr. Henry.
to Mary,
Sure.
if we possibly could have that ahead of time, even a few days, that'd be just wonderful.
Okay, that'll be my goal.
That's what I heard.
Thank you. Moving on to 9C, old business. We have nothing slated for this evening. 9D, new business. Again, we have nothing slated. Under item 10 on the agenda, executive session,
Kathy?
I'm sorry.
Before we leave new business, I wanted to point out that we're going to talk about the rural lane put that on the agenda for next meeting.
Yes.
Right.
So to our clerk, if we could put the matter of the rural lane traffic pattern or flow on our next meeting agenda. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We do have an executive session this evening scheduled to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining unit, in this case, the TEU, which is the Town Employees Union. I will entertain a motion to move into executive session at this time.
I make a motion that the town council move into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with unit TEU, the Town Employees Union, only to return simply for purposes of adjournment.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Richards?
Yes.
Mr. Page?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr. Kane?
Yes.
And Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Okay, we will be now moving to executive session and returning only for the purposes of adjournment. We will be back in session on Tuesday, May the 12th, 2020, 2 weeks from now. Thank you for joining us this evening, and good evening. Unanimously, we're leaving executive session at 7:06. And now I'll entertain the motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Marilyn?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
I am a yes. Mike?
Yes.
And Pat?
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned at 7:06. And we will be back together Sooner than you think, hopefully closer to a relaxation of all of these constraints on our daily lives and also on our financial affairs. Thank you, everyone.